In this video, I'd like to provide you some guidance on assignment A18, which you should be able to complete using Ftk Imager. Before we get started, I would like to open my File Explorer and follow the same steps as we did for our prior lab. And to begin with, create new subfolder named a18, which corresponds to the encoding of our current assignment. Let's now open our handout. And it comes with a set of instructions to complete the steps on digital media acquisition. So basically what you need to do is to image a thumb drive, a micro USB or SD card, or any other portable USB media device. You'd have to complete and submit this form, of course, to finish this work. And the smaller drive you choose, the faster it'll go for you to complete the imaging process. Carefully choose your destination folder, which in my case would, I suppose, be this location on my drive. And of course, I recommend that you use Access Data Ftk Imager, but if you'd like to try some other software, it's okay. You can use some command line tools or other tools available, open source or commercial. It's up to you. We've completed a very similar set of tasks in our previous lab. But here's the difference. I call this a report of digital media acquisition for a reason. I really structure the sequence of fields that you need to fill in this form in a typical format that you would use in your forensic investigation. Your report would typically mention the case. In this situation, you probably can use A18 or homework 18, provide your name. Oftentimes it will also include your organization name, address, your phone number, and other attributes you'd like to include in your reporting. Then it comes with a case summary, so you need to really kind of specify what is the case that you're trying to work on. Just be absolutely sure to use any of this information to formulate briefly, just like in one paragraph, the summary of the case that you're working on. You simply have to word your task of imaging a portable drive. And then you just want to list your objectives. You want to share in your report what were your objectives before you gotten started. So typically it's just like a list of steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or certain areas that you'd like to examine and so forth. Just be very specific. One line here should focus on the objectives that you have to finish. Of course, as you're completing your imaging process, I want you to specify both MD5 verification hash and SHA-1 verification hash as reported by Ftk Imager, and also indicate where this process validated and completed correctly. Of course, I want you to describe how exactly, what steps did you take to complete your work. Don't overload this area, this field, with too much details, but provide enough information about the steps that you took to be able to at least recreate these steps yourself. If your case was shelved for 1 or 3 months, and later on you need to restart your work, you would like to be able to reproduce these steps or be able to refresh your memory on the steps. You typically specify exactly what forensic tools and what versions of software that you're using. You'd normally expect it to have a license to use your tools. And of course, that comes with integrity of your work and integrity of the organization you're working for. So just this has to be very specific in terms of the set of tools and their versions. If you want to provide additional license information, feel free to add this to this field as well. Of course, if you're using Ftk Imager and it generates the acquisition report, which is known as physical evidentiary item information, just be sure to copy and paste the content of the file. Actually, first specify the name of this and then copy and paste the information provided in that file. So when you're done, just submit this for grading. And as usual, I will send you back my feedback by email. If there's more details available, I will tell you to look specifically in the same form. My additional notes may be added to your answers right here. Some students have indicated in the past that they experience difficulty using Ftk Imager on their computer. Specifically, it would normally be when they try to gain physical access to the data source for imaging, when you choose a physical drive for imaging. Perhaps you don't have enough privilege on that machine, or whatever the case might be. An alternative to complete this assignment is to download this zip file that includes raw images of small portable drives. For example, you can right-click here and save link as. And I typically point it to the location on my drive where I'd like to save this zip file. Okay, so it's called ddimages.zip. Save it right here. This is totally optional. You don't have to worry about any of this if you're successfully imaged your thumb drive and filled in all the fields in this report. This is all fine. This is only if you have some technical difficulties using Ftk Imager. So notice that I download this ddimages.zip. I should give you a warning that you should never try to use the zip file or archive or any other type of archive or compound file directly in this form. You know how Windows Explorer allows you to double click on zip files and pretend that they are normal folders. They are not folders, they are files. And what you can do when you open them by double clicking on them in Windows Explorer is extremely limited and could lead to even problematic situations. So what you must do normally, you just use your favorite archive tool. My favorite is 7-zip, and just simply extract here. So this expands the zip file to DD images. When I conduct my work, I normally do not keep archive files in the same area where my working folders are. And the reason for it is that it's that easy to mismatch these icons and the functionality inside Windows Explorer to mistakenly think that this is another folder. So I would normally just move this file somewhere else, or I just hit the delete key and delete it from my drive. Or, you know, I keep my zip files in the areas where I keep all of my archives. So under DD images, you have three choices here. There are three DD images here if you want to use Ftk Imager. What you can do, let me start my Ftk Imager right here. You can just say create disk image and go to the image file option and say next and browse for or specify this location. Normally I like to copy and paste. I may be working in 3 different locations at the same time, so if I have something in front of me, I like to copy and paste paths in these boxes, and then you can browse. It brings you directly to this area and you can select whatever one of these files are. and just say finish, and then you would normally select your destination by saying add, and choose your favorite format. The two most popular formats are DD and a18, in case compatible, and DD stands for carbon copy of the original file. DD is a name of Unix utility, and at the time when this Unix utility was invented, the name CC for carbon copy was already taken. It was another utility like a C compiler on a Unix system. So the name that was given to it is DD, but DD really stands for carbon copy. This is just a raw, unencrypted, uncompressed, plain vanilla copy of the original item. So that's the format that you can use. So you can try in case format, which is the most typical choice for many examiners. So when you say next, you can specify the case number. I would suggest that if you're using a18, be consistent here, and of course use the same entries as you have over here. These fields are optional, but case number is probably something that you want to add here. Evidence number simply corresponds to items such as if you have a stack of DVD files, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'd just want to specify the evidence number that corresponds to that specific physical item to be able to identify it fully. A description here would include the description of the drive or thumb drive or any other device you're trying to image, your name, and any other notes. Typically, these notes may include information, rather very briefly, about the state of the acquisition media. For example, if you can see that it's physically damaged, you can visually determine and be able to identify some physical damage like bending or scratches or cracks. You should probably note it here as well, because you know to expect some problems perhaps if you're trying to image an already damaged drive. Just any other specific item-specific notes would be a good place to put here. But this is very brief. Everything that goes beyond the size of this field should be included in your report and not in this evidence item information. And then normally you just select the destination folder and you can produce the exact copy of one of these DD files. Once again, I give you this type of workaround for the reason only if you have difficulty using other functions of Ftk Imager on your system. Otherwise, just use a normal data source, use some small thumb drive to complete this work.